Hi, Seemi.
So wonderful to see you. How are you?
Good to see you. We're the first ones, I guess. I think you're going to know everybody. Uh, have you met Jen Masterson yet?
No, I'm very excited to meet Jan.
Okay, so she's the only one. I think you know Jeff Renner, do you?
No, we've just been in touch.
Okay, good. So I'll make introductions to everybody. Of course, you know Jamal. So,
Yes, I do. I do. I know him well. Yes, this is wonderful.
so you getting
We were
excited
just,
about this?
oh, I'm so excited. I'm so excited. Yeah, uh, it felt like such a sign at so many levels
I
at
know
the
you're
moment
absolutely right,
when
especially
it
now
came.
in the
Yeah,
world right now.
yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Morning, Jan.
Good
Jamal.
morning, everyone.
Sorry, I'm a few minutes late. I couldn't find the darned email where the with the link.
You're on the
I
dot.
had the
You're on
same
the dot
problem.
at 9 a.m.
Well, I only get, I don't know, 2 or 3 dozen emails from Bob in a week, and sometimes I lose track.
Okay,
We're waiting for
Whoa.
Jeff, but while I do, let me introduce Jan to Seemi Ghazi. Did I pronounce it properly?
yes.
And Jen Masterson. And I think you already met with Jeff, didn't you, Jan? I mean with
Yes,
Jamal.
Jeff and I met with Jamal. Yes.
You know each
Yes,
other.
yes, yes, yes.
And Seemi, Jan is the one who's preparing the uh, printed program, so she's going to be making introductions that way. And Jeff Renner, I'd like to introduce you to Seemi. You just got here, right? So, uh, and this is Seemi Ghazi, Jeff Renner. You know each other or not?
Good morning. Corresponded, but this is first time, at least virtually, to meet. Thank you very much for joining us, Seemi, and good to meet you.
I'm
And
delighted.
Jamal, good to see you too.
Thank you, Brother Jeff and Sister Seemi, Jan, Sister Jan, Brother Bob.
I
Delighted to
didn't
be
feel
here.
like I needed to make too many introductions because you've all met pretty much each other. Jeff
Yes.
is the one who is the moderator and being introducing people at the conference itself. So Jan and Jeff both have common roles to play in a sense of learning a bit more about you personally and all. And I know they've already met with you, Jamal, but
Yes.
one question I'd like to ask right up front, how much time do you both have? Or do you have any limits on time?
You
Um,
mean today?
Yes,
Yes.
right now, for today, for
I
this
have a
Zoom call.
I have a class to teach in 3 hours.
Okay.
Oh, heavens. I'll be hoarse in 3 hours.
We usually go 4 or 5 hours, but we'll
Yeah,
hope.
you'll be
I'm just
compassionate. Yes, yes.
I'm noticing that my voice is a little hoarse. I'm
And
just gonna
Jamal, do you have
grab my
any
water and I'll
limitations?
be right back.
No,
I can hear
Okay,
you.
my next
I
program is
understand.
at 11.
Oh, 11 your time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so he's got an hour.
Okay,
Okay.
so that shouldn't be a problem.
No, no, I got 2 hours. It's
Got 2 hours. So
9 o'clock.
people easily get it all done.
Yeah.
We'll give her a chance to come back. But so I'll be asking a few things at the very end, but most of the conversation will be with Jan and Jeff. And
Here she is. I
yeah,
see her
there's
shoulder.
Kara. I'm going to
Sammy,
turn it over to
excuse
Jan and Jeff right now. I'll have a few comments at the end, but it's going to be mostly them that'll be interviewing you, and we'll talk about the program. And any time you want me to jump in, let me know. Okay.
quick, could I make a quick request? Simi, there's a real light problem with your
Yes, yeah.
face.
I
Is there a
think
way
I
you
can.
can
Yes,
close the window or something?
yeah,
Or
no,
close the shade?
yes, I can, or I can also move. It's such a, I'm gonna,
Even though the Christmas tree looks so beautiful, though.
just, we got to the point where it was all, it
That's
was up.
good. Thank you.
Beautiful.
That's much
Now,
better.
now
Thank you.
you look beautiful. This is good.
Yes, you
Thank
do.
you.
Even
Yeah,
more
it
beautiful.
was,
Come on,
it was
absolutely.
up,
Better.
it has some Halloween decorations on it now, and in the dervish season, it had whirling dervishes, so we've just been
Really?
going with whatever the theme is, because
Lovely.
Jeff, you want to start?
Certainly. Well, basically, Jan and I are just going to try to do two different things here. And one is sort of review some of the format for when we actually do the programs. and then just get some information. Jan is putting together a profile that'll be available to people, I think probably before and then also at the conference. And then I'm just looking for information in terms of a way to introduce you. And there will be 2 panels that you'll both be part of. I'm just looking at my references here. Let's see. Seemi, you will be, in addition to the Sufi Contemplative Prayer on Thursday, the 19th, which will be from 8:15 to 9. And Bob can fill you in a little bit more on the basic format on that. There will also be a panel discussion on Wednesday, June 18th. That's the day before you do your full presentation. And that will include both scientists and also people from the various faith traditions to get both perspectives. The one that you'll be following will be the physics to creation and chemistry to life. So we'll have some physicists, some chemists, and then people from different faith traditions, such as yourself. And then, let's see, Jamal, you are, of course, there's the presentation itself, but then you'll be part of the panel discussion on Thursday, June 19th, so the same day you do your presentation.
Yes.
And you'll be following the biology and consciousness and the psychology to mysticism presentations. And so those are pretty open-ended. It's more or less an opportunity for the various presenters to share their perspectives. And so those are the only other things that I would mention. We had a chance to talk with Jamal, of course, but Seemi, I did some background research, and I guess the first question I would have is for the purpose of introductions, when I introduce you and Jamal, and these are going to be fairly brief, but what do you particularly like to have mentioned when somebody introduces you, particularly for an interfaith or general gathering of this sort?
Well, I mean, one thing certainly that I can do is if you would give me sort of the word count, I could write you and send you like the exact, because I'm always reshape it, you know, depending on how long it needs to be and what the context is, right? Obviously, but in this case where we have an academic component and an interfaith component, you know, I'm a lecturer in classical Arabic at the University of British
Right.
Columbia, and I think that's just grounding to have institution profession, you know, and then I also say that I'm a performer of Islamic vocal arts. So I recite Quran, and I also perform, you know, Muslim devotional song in many languages across many traditions. And I'm also a poet and essayist, but I'm a Sufi teacher, and I lead Sufi worship ceremony. You know, so I think those are probably the central things. But if you were to say to me, I would love so many words. I could.
Could I jump in and ask it for clarification on what you just said, please? Amy, I understand Jamal had given us a little bit of background about your vocal performances.
Yeah.
My question, I did not realize that you are a poet and a writer.
Yeah.
Are these, what's that? What, and I'm assuming here that you write about Islamic faith and truth and all that kind of thing. Is there a particular, oh gosh, what's the word I'm looking for? Emphasis that you place in your writing about, for example, are you talking about faith or hope or how to get there or where your journey's leading you or all of the above? I'm trying to get a little bit of an idea of the type of thing that you write about.
I think the central word, the touch point in Islamic poetry is love.
Okay.
It's ishq. It's this divine love that overflows and creates the cosmos and also draws us into return. And I think all of my poetry is about that. Yeah.
Okay, so
and a lot of
any
it is
type, all
actually,
kinds of love, the love for the divine, love for each other.
Yeah, there's no separation really within the Islamic
Okay.
poetic tradition. The beloved, uh, it can be a man or a woman or your child or an ideal or the divine or a prophet or a messenger or your teacher, and it's always yeah, it's the kind of poly, not to make a pun on my name, but the polysemy. It's the kind of of
Yeah.
that which is powerful, because it's always resonating at all those levels. Yeah. So
Okay. I just wanted to get a sense. What I'm doing for the program is a profile. I want people to kind of have an idea of who you are before you get up and do what you're doing for us.
yeah.
Make you real, make you human,
Yes.
rather
Mhm.
than just that blob standing up on the stage. And I want people to feel that they know you just a little bit, behind the credentials, which I'm not denigrating, they're certainly important, but who
Yes.
the person is behind the credentials. So that
Yes.
was what's behind my question about, since I'm a writer myself, I know there's usually, no matter what we write, there is some kind of a theme that
Mhm.
runs through all of our compositions. And I just wanted to verify that with you. So thank you. I thought I kind of owed you an explanation of why I asked that question.
No, yeah, yes, no, that's yeah,
Thank you.
I love to read some of what you write. Yeah, I think I write about divine love, human love, and the journey, you know, of love, in love, to love.
Mhm.
I would say that's the that's probably sums it up.
Oh, be careful what you ask
Some
for
of my
about.
writing, yeah, and some of my writing certainly is quite a lot of my writing are English poems in the ghazal form, which is the kind of poetic, the love poem par
Mhm.
excellence in, Arabic, Urdu, Bosnian, and Turkish. Anywhere you go where Muslims have been, you find this genre.
Okay.
Mhm.
I envy anybody who can write poetry. I've attempted it and I'm lousy at it. And I admit that. So I'm in awe of anybody who can write poetry in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I feel that way about fiction.
Oh yeah, fiction's the same way. I can't write fiction either. I write great dialogue. I just don't know what to do with it.
Oh,
We can take this offline. The gentlemen are bored silly with what we're talking about right now.
yeah,
Can you see
yeah,
the
yeah.
looks on their faces?
Oh,
They're smiling. They're smiling. They're smiling.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jeff.
Mhm.
oh, just a couple of other questions. I took the opportunity just to, and I like to do this to see what's online in terms of videos and so forth. And I saw a wonderful piece uh, that was on YouTube, and it was talking about your father and the influence that he had had on you.
Yes.
And I think you were talking about how uh, when you got married, how it's traditional for the father to write a poem and the difficulty that he had, but then that was just a beautiful piece. And
That was a digital story. That was my first digital story that I made. I took a course on digital storytelling, and that was the little film I produced. Yes.
well, that was wonderful.
Thank you.
I was really touched by that. And I think was it part of his poem? And I'm going to mispronounce this, so please do
Oh, please.
correct me. But is it pronounced Ruxati?
Rukhsati, yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
okay, so that was fairly close. That he had a line, I think, in there, and it said, uh, "Neither wealth nor power do I desire, but freedom for deeper things." Do I remember
Yes,
correctly?
yes,
Because I thought that would be beautiful to work into, the introduction
yes.
and what you are imparting to all of us. Would that be acceptable?
That would be, oh, I'm so honored that you went and sleuthed and found your way and then chose that line, which is like the essence of his legacy to me. Yes, that's really beautiful. Thank you. I would be, yeah.
Okay. Well, I was taken also. I think there was one point in the presentation that you mentioned that he looked very much like a Chinese scholar.
Yeah.
And I thought I looked at the pictures, and when you were running that, was that also a more recent picture of your mother and father down in the lower corner?
That was them watching this film was screened. They had a Muslim Educational Foundation and they did interfaith work all their life.
Yeah.
You know, at very high levels, you know. So so they were watching this, and it was screened at the foundation that they founded. So
Hmm.
that little, yeah, this clip is of them watching it. Yes. Yeah, the Jamal would get this. I think the line is न सरवरी है न जरगरी है हमारी विरासत कलंदरी है. So my, like, not sarvari, which is like leadership and power. It's like kind of like Caesar sarvar, you know.
Mm.
Nazar kari hai, nor like zar is gold, nor pursuing gold. But my virasat, my legacy to you is qalandari, to be a qalandar, and a qalandar is a particular kind of Sufi, and it's a Sufi who's wandering, and a Sufi who really is like in love with the divine, and a Sufi who's a bit unconcerned with the world, you know, like, um, you
So
know,
your parents were Sufis or are Sufis?
my family lineage is a Sufi
Oh,
lineage,
I
but
see. Okay.
also a lineage of scholars. I say my dad's family are like Muslim rabbis, so they were Muslim scholars. And this was something I sometimes put in my introduction, is that when we first immigrated to the United States, I was 3, and we immigrated to the Center for the Study of World Religions at Harvard, and we lived there. And so living there, I was surrounded by, you know, these great luminaries of religious studies, you know, Anne Marie Schimmel and Wilfred Cantwell Smith and Diana Eck. I mean, these people all just lived around us. That's where I went trick-or-treating, and who I, yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, these are, so Sayyid Hussein Nasser, like, as a child, it was their children I played with, or they, yeah.
Right.
So the interfaith, were, I have put this in a bio that I grew up there and was influenced, you know, that was my first experience of interfaith living. And somebody has changed that to say that I was like the director of the Center for the Study of World Religions.
At
And
3 years old,
At
you
age
are
of 3,
precocious.
that's
yeah,
impressive.
so you may also find this in biographies of mine on the internet, because once somebody puts it out there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm honored to know somebody that precocious. Thank you very much for joining us today.
One other question I would ask, and then Jan, feel free to jump in, is I noticed in doing the scan of information that I was looking for that you had posted something on a scienceandnonduality.com
Yes.
courses. And so I guess my question would be, when did you start to have an interest in terms of not only the interfaith, but also the science and non-dualistic aspect of or intersection with faith?
You know, first of all, I would just say that I'm a very intellectually curious person. And so, you know, science, creation, how the mind works, how everything from the macrocosm to the microcosm really is something that's arresting to me. And
Hmm.
I read about it, I think about it, I ponder it. I could easily have been a scientist. You know, my chemistry teacher in high school thought certainly I was going into chemistry because I was so passionate about it. And one joy of having a 14-year-old right now is that I'm going back, and I sit and
Ah,
work with him and tutor him, and, you know, so I'm just having the chance to go back and like learn the mathematics as well, like just revisit the mathematics, revisit the science, and um, I'm loving it so much. It's not a burden at all. It's this kind of opportunity to share again with my child, and so I'm very excited about that aspect of this conference. Also, as you know, I mean, the rise of Muslim civilization coincided with this efflorescence, flourishing in the
hmm.
sciences,
Mhm.
um, you know, geography, and on so many ways. So for that reason, I've also always been interested in science because I am a student of Islamic civilization.
Hmm.
You know, I'm, you know, particularly enamored of like the shared culture of Muslim Spain, you know, and you have like Ibn al-Haytham and his optics and so many amazing things that happen there. And so I think it's just, it's something that I love and that I read about and that I care about. And then the Quran, you know, is like so, the Quran is just a book of observation. And there's this refrain in the Quran, like, do they not observe? Do they not see? Do they not ponder? Do they not reflect? So the argument from creation to creator is, and the kind of wonder of creation, even in its most intimate form, the gnat, the spider, the ant, you know, these are in the Quran. The basil is in the Quran. Um, the coral, the pearl. Um, the Quran is constantly inspiring and urging us to have this wonder. Like I say that it's an intensely, uh, radically biophilic text,
Hmm.
the Quran. And so I'm immersed in the Quran, you know, it's what I teach best, it's what I know best. It's also the kind of medium in which we live. So I think that's really a huge part of the inspiration for me to have that engagement. And I said, as I said, you know, there's this like a kind of like a sense of a contrariness between scientific knowledge and sacred knowledge is also not something that's very, I think, prevalent in our tradition, certainly historically. Now, I think in modernity it is a little bit different
Hmm.
because Muslims have been impacted by many things, you know, by colonialism and by, you know, all the kinds of ideas that are out there that are more about, you know, rationality. Let's leave science, you know, rationality and faith are somehow in contradiction. So, but in our tradition historically, it's not like that.
Hmm.
You know, there's so much, there's confluence. It's a source of inspiration and exploration.
I have a
And it's
follow-up question to something that you said about helping your son with his homework. Um, do you find, because of the reminders that you're getting from when you were, you know, steeped in studying these,
yeah.
you know, science and whatnot, do you find that you're seeing the world through different eyes? Because, first of all, he's a boy. Okay, so that's right there is a different perspective.
Hmm.
But in your place in history, and now his place in history, are you learning from him because his perspective is different than yours are?
I would say not just in studying science. I mean,
Well, okay, yeah, the world in general, yeah.
every area, they're very, you know, they're extraordinary. These children, like, there's a
Yes, they
kind of
are. Yeah.
consciousness that they have, which is very,
Well, they have a
wow.
unique view that
Yes.
we, unfortunately, too many adults have lost for whatever reason. And I find it incredibly, I am in awe of the way children look at the world,
Hmm.
all of the world, and how it works and their questions. And I always walk away from an encounter with a young person feeling like, which one of us is the mentor here? You
Yeah.
know, is it
Yeah.
me or is it them? And you have an incredible source right in your own home for that kind of thing. So
But when
before I
he
put that
was,
in your profile, I wanted to make sure that you really felt that way.
yeah, no, no. He, when he was young, he asked me, when it, like very young, when I was, Mom, what's what's bigger, infinity or beyond?
Yeah. Yeah. Don't you love questions like that?
Yes. I thought, wow, this is really, this is a great question. What's greater,
Yeah.
infinity or beyond, you know? So
I suspect we know what movie he got that from.
yes, we do. We do. Yeah. Yeah.
That's interesting. So your son obviously has a very inquiring, curious mind. Suppose he
Yeah,
got that from his
you might
mom?
be a little jealous to know he's a really wonderful poet.
Oh, well, you know what? Anybody's a better poet than I am. I'll exceed that to anybody. Um, bigger, let's see. What's bigger, infinity or beyond?
Beyond, yeah.
That's what I thought you said. Okay. He keeps you on your toes, does he?
Oh, yeah, no, yes, he does. He does. He does. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that.
Hmm.
Does that give you an indication of what I'm trying to show the audience?
Yes, yes. I could send you, I have a couple of essays that I've written if you're interested.
Oh, I'd love to read
And
them.
I think if
Yes.
you have that, I mean, they're out there in they're published. And so, and I think they give you a really strong sense of who I am. And you could certainly pick something from there. And what my father's quote, yeah, that's
That would
really,
be wonderful if you'd email that to me. Um, uh, my
mhm.
email's included in the different
Yes.
things that are
Yeah.
going back and forth. Yes, I'd really like that.
I'd welcome
It,
that also.
Yeah, yeah. One is the there's a book that just came out of Yale University Press, which is sermons by Muslim women from all around the world,
mm,
and then also an essay on, well, how did I get to be a khatiba, someone who would give a sermon, given that, as in many of our traditions, traditionally it's not the women who would give sermons. Um, so I have an essay in there that kind of speaks about my spiritual journey and my role to becoming someone who, and then there's two short wedding sermons
mm.
in there as
This kind
well.
of leads me, although I think I know what your answer is. One of my questions that I have been asking of all of our speakers, our presenters, why did you agree to do this for us? What was your motivation to stand up in front of an interfaith group? Obviously, you have experience with interfaith, but why this particular conference did you agree to speak?
Um, one thing I will say that the messengers were my friends, Rabbi Laura and brother Imam Jamal. And I
Okay.
think the messenger matters a lot. So just the source of the invitation, immediately I thought, oh, I want to do anything that they're involved in and anything that they're inviting me to. Like, my immediate response is yes, of course. So I think that that is something. And I will also say that I had a personal challenge, and in this personal challenge, there were people in my world who were all going to Rome, and I was excluded, and um, and then uh, I had to really, yeah, I just had to like be gracious about this and be in my, and it was a big wedding for a child that I've loved since and cared for since he was little, but my ex and I are not together, and he went with the children, and I stayed and didn't go, and yeah, so I was striving to be gracious, but I had pain about it because this had been my community, and then this invitation came, and I said, "Oh, wow, you're going to go to Rome to do the work you were born to do in the world with the people who are your intellectual and soul partners in this world, and you're going for a purpose that's high, you're going for a divine purpose, like." So I really felt like God called me and said, don't worry about, like the things that we have to let go that are hard to let go, but so yeah, so that so I'm being very honest, but also I mean I seek out interfaith
Mhm.
gatherings, and all my life. My undergraduate degree was in religious studies. It was very much comparative. My dad was a Muslim scholar who wrote about Hinduism in his
Mhm.
PhD dissertation. He didn't end up studying Islam at Harvard. I mean, he did as well, but his main
Right.
research was in Hinduism. And I've studied Jewish and Christian mysticism. Jewish, Christian, and Islamic mysticism were really like if it hadn't meant also studying Hebrew, I would have tried to be a Semiticist as well. But I already had gone also in the Persian Urdu direction. So now that like
Yeah,
this,
I get you. Yeah.
the kind of Eastern, and as I said, I am so fascinated by like science and faith and discussions of this nature. So yeah, it felt, yeah,
Thank you for your honesty about that.
yeah,
It's kind of surprised me in a way, and yet when I think about it, not really. Many of the folks have responded with so and so asked me and I said yes, kind of thing. Now it's like, okay, to me, that's the spirit working.
hmm,
She's bringing us all together. And then you confirmed that with your story about having to let go of something that you wanted to do for different reasons. And all of a sudden, the spirit handed you a gift.
yeah.
Mhm. So thank you for being honest about that. That helps a lot.
I hear that Rome can be, people are saying to me, it's the Jubilee year. You better
Yeah.
get your tickets. You better figure out where you're going to stay. And not just Rome, like throughout Italy,
Yeah.
everyone kind of fans out from Rome. So
Oh, you've got a bird's eye view. The Paolo 6 Hotel overlooks St. Peter's Square from the roof, the whatever they call that thing up there. You can see the dome lit up. It's like 150 yards away. So, oh, I don't know where your friend stayed, but something tells me it's probably not in a place like that.
Yeah.
no, I'm really,
Make sure you take a lot of pictures. Jeff, did you have anything else for Seemi?
I think I'm in pretty good shape. I think what I'll do is when I do an introduction, and I want to make sure it's congenial to you, so I'm going to send you sort of an outline. I always like to put it in my words because I'm reading it, but I want to
yes,
make sure that it's comfortable for you. So what
yes.
I'll do is probably in the next month or two, work something out, send it off to you, and then probably we'll touch base another time, as I would expect, probably late winter, early spring, just to sort of, collect our thoughts again. But I think we have some wonderful things.
Mm,
And the key element is, and Bob will go over that. Maybe he already did before I joined. I was a little bit late because we had a thermostat that's failing. And so we were dealing with that. But in terms of the timing, because of the timing, I want to give enough of an introduction to do, honor, but also not take away from your time and Jamal's time in doing that. Uh, but I think I have what I need.
okay. I'm going to kind of add something to what you just said, Jeff. When you and Jamal decide how you're going to divide up your time or whatever, I think it would help Jeff to just, I mean, he obviously doesn't know exactly what he needs kind of an outline or a general
Right.
approach so he can introduce you with that information, which kind of goes into one of my questions. Jamal gave me his. I'm going to ask you off the top of your head, can you give me, or would you give me, a 2 or 3 word description of what you plan to present? I'm not talking about the title. What I'm talking about is what I think of in the advertising world as a teaser, as a headline.
Okay, so this will be in the prayer session that he and I we will be sharing the
This is
prayer
going to be
session.
in the profile, and that question, or that answer to that question, will be used as part of the profile. Again, it's just when people are looking at the program, I want them to say, huh, that's interesting. I wonder what that means, or where she's going with that, or something to that effect. Okay, so just a teaser. And
Yes.
I usually like gut reactions to that question. But if I've really put you on the spot because you haven't given a whole lot of thought to this, then you can just email it to me.
Um, well, so I know that there's a section of silent prayer,
Mhm.
right? There's
Yes.
some silent prayer, which is or ask for silent prayer, but we'll sort of lead something leading into that, and it's not very long, right? Between the two of us, you were saying
It's
that it would.
45 minutes.
Yeah,
And
if I may interject real quickly here, sorry, I forgot of something. I've got a hold of Father Lawrence Freeman to lead it off with mysticism. I don't know if you're familiar with him or know of him, but powerful. And he has had experience in this, as you all have, in teaching to people that have never done this before. And I share his reaction and recommendation that the period of silence be pure silence, nothing said, but it would be 10 minutes long rather than longer, because there are going to be people that have never done this before. So having said that, the other part of the 45 minutes, I let up to the two of you to decide how you want to approach it. I will tell you that giving a sense of perspective here is the way I see this union of faiths taking place is in the silence. There's no dogma. And as a result, we practice an interfaith centering prayer in various groups, very recognizable. At first, I was awkward to use that because I didn't want it to come across as Christian, but it really isn't. And it captures that God indwelling, which all the Abrahamic faiths believe in. So the meditation or the discursive part of building up to the silence, and then at the end retreating after the silence, that is unique to your tradition. And so that's the part that you would take up between the two of you. So I'll let you go.
That has changed since we spoke with you, Jamal, because I remember we told you 20 minutes or 15 minutes, I think. It's changed to 10. So you have more time than you thought you did.
I see.
In the beginning.
You only want not 15 minutes for silence, but 10 minutes for silence.
10 minutes, right, yeah.
Right.
Because Bob talked to Father Freeman and actually talked to somebody else about that, one of the other faith people, the clergy, and they kind of agreed that for people who are not familiar with this type of prayer,
Right.
that 20 or even 15 minutes can seem like,
Okay.
A century. So we've brought it down to 10 minutes, and hopefully they won't get too squirmy at 10 minutes, hopefully.
So I think, Sister Jan, you're saying that between me and Sister Seemi, we have 17 and a half minutes each. I mean, technically speaking.
If that's the way you want to look at it, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not in the business here of telling you how to present your
Right.
Or
faith
how to split up the time.
or how to split
Yeah.
up. That's
And so
totally, entirely up to you.
Yes.
As long as you stay within those guidelines, because boy,
Oh,
this
yeah. I
schedule
would
is
love to
really
split
tight.
it equally, 17 and a half minutes to Sister Seemi and 7.5 minutes to me. Yeah.
That's fine. Yeah, no problem with that.
And in that, would we do something where we're engaging the audience in
It's up to you.
something like it could be a breathing practice, it could be it could be some kind of
Are you talking about the 10 minutes?
No, before the
not the
10 minutes.
10 in our 17 minutes. Like
Oh, yeah.
would you like, is the idea simply that, for example, we would each speak for 17 minutes and say something inspiring, offer something that's contemplative, meditative, or is it that we would actually have the people in the room
Well,
participating
here's
in
what
something?
here's what I had envisioned, but I don't want to impose on your tradition. Normally, you don't just jump into the silence. There is a little bit of an intro.
Yes.
So, and before you do that intro, of course, it's in your tradition. So there's probably some little bit of explanation as to why there is this intro. And then you do the intro into the silence. And then at the end of the silence, you come out of it in a way that your tradition discursively might do that. And so it's partly a presentation of how your tradition practices this silence, how you introduce it and get into it, and how you exit it.
I see.
Now, I don't want to tell you that. You may have a different thought process, but that's what
Our
I'm.
goal with all of these, since we have Christian, Judaic, and Islamic people showing us their practice or sharing their practice with us, at least in my head, I want people to walk away from that conference saying, okay, it's a little different how they, is approached, but it's still the same thing. It's still trying to sit and be quiet and listen rather than talk. Set those pesky thoughts we all have aside and just listen. I can't remember exactly how you said it, Jamal, something about the most important thing in Islam is silence.
Oh, yeah, I
And
would say that the Quran has its, roots in the womb of silence. When the Prophet, peace be upon him, he was meditating in silence in the cave.
mhm. And so my goal, and I think everybody that's intimately involved in this since the beginning, is to show people that there are different ways to approach this, and they're all very real, very valid, and hopefully accomplish the same thing, whatever that might be for you personally. So to answer your question, Seemi, if breathing is part of it, yep, do that. Whatever it is to prepare them. So whatever it is, the audience has an idea of how to go about it. I suspect with the people that will be in this at this conference, we have as you said, you're very curious. I believe they're going to be curious. That's why they're there. And so partly whether they're conscious of this or not, they're there to learn and absorb.
Jamal, you're on our board.
Yeah.
And as you know, we've been practicing this together in a sense. You saw how Rabbi Rosenstock approached it, and he's doing the Jewish Kabbalah approach.
Yes.
And of course, Father Lawrence Freeman will do his Benedictine approach. But ultimately, in the silence is where I want to show there's union. And the reason is that ultimately the science is going to be looking at the research on that transcendent state. And that leads, I try to describe this in the book that I wrote. And this has been an awkward suggestion that I've had to make to people because
Would you like me to make it, Bob?
Oh yeah, well, I'm certainly. I think this is for me. I think I need to reflect, and I'm going to read the book. I was planning to read it over the this Christmas holiday, and then I think that's going to spark some connections for me within my tradition, within my repertoire, perhaps within my poetry or other Sufi poets, and then I'm gonna know, these things emerge. They have a natural, an organic process.
And I want them to grow organically. Absolutely. The only reason I'm encouraging people to read the book is not because I'm smarter than anybody else, or my story is better, or I want you to believe what I went through, but I want you to get a sense of the flow that's going from the physics to the chemistry to the biology to the mysticism and psychology as to where this conference is headed with other much more powerful speakers than myself. But at least you'll get a sense of where we're going to end up so that when you do your portion, you can see where we're going to end up. And we're not going to tell the registrants necessarily too much of the connection between your silent prayer. I want them to have this aha moment in the last conference talks where they realize, oh, this is what it was about.
Yeah, exactly. For whatever it's worth, as Bob's editor, I read the book 9 times. And every time I did, I had another insight, something else jumped out at me, whatever. And I've been to several of his presentations. I've sat through 2 or 3 of the different classes that he's taught. And inevitably, I learned something I didn't know or recognize or whatever each time I come in contact with the information in the book. That's how powerful this book is. If I can do it and have read the darn thing 9 times, and I was looking for, frankly, I was looking for things to make sure that they were right. I didn't realize I was looking to learn. That's my curious mind jumping in when I wasn't even aware of it. So I do encourage people to read it if partly to get the flow, the sense of why we said it or why Bob set it up like he did. But if I may speak modestly, it'll blow your socks off when you read it. So I really do encourage people to read that. And Bob doesn't like to talk about that, but I have absolutely no problem with promoting that book because I know what it did for me and continues to do for me.
This tests my attempt to be humble. Okay, this is really hard.
Oh, hey, let me tell you, I find a lot of ways to poke him to make sure he stays humble.
Oh, gosh.
That's also part of my job as his editor. Um,
Wonderful.
so,
Wonderful.
like I say, for
And
whatever it's
I
worth,
think,
it's worth your time, is what I'm saying.
and I think,
Sounds
you know,
like
in terms of,
maybe I and Sister Simi need to talk about this after we have pondered on it
Oh,
yeah,
yeah,
offline.
for
yeah,
sure. Yeah.
I
Yeah,
think, you know,
yeah,
maybe we both
absolutely.
read
I'll
the
be happy
book
to.
and then talk, and then, yeah, uh, uh, I mean, my thought was that, I mean, I could offer some recitation,
Yes, yes.
um,
By the way, I've
openly
told
for
you that
those
her
who,
recitation is world class. She was on
Yes.
Krista Tippett's program in NPR, and she said this is one of the best programs she ever did.
Wonderful.
Do you
I
have his
am looking
recitation?
forward to that. I didn't want to say anything because I don't want to lead you into doing
oh, yeah,
something.
no,
But
I
that
think,
Jamal has spoken so highly of of
thank
you, that I hope that's at least part of your time.
Now,
Okay, before we get in, that's up to you and Jamal. I don't want to abuse your time, but
you.
there's two more questions that kind of are
Yes.
related. What one thing, that's a nebulous noun, I know, but what one thing would you like people to take away from whatever you're going to be talking about? If you can narrow it down to one or two ideas, feelings, concepts, whatever.
I think for me, it's unity.
Unity? Ah, okay. That's a great answer. What about what one thing would you want people to know about you personally?
I think the word that comes is resonance. Like I think uh, I would want people who leave this conference, whatever they remember or don't remember about the particular words I said, but I would
Mhm.
like them to receive a certain resonance. And I think it's a resonance that comes from centuries and that comes from these traditions that have formed me. And I think if they leave with that resonance, they've understood something about Islam and about Muslim mystics that, yeah.
It kind of goes along with, and I think it was Maya Angelou that said this, that doesn't really matter what you say or what you do. People remember how you made them feel.
Yes, yes, it's very, I think very much like
Does
that.
that kind of
Yeah.
encapsulate what? Okay. All right. Thank you.
You know, I think when she said it, oh, I mean, she's very deep. She's not just
Yeah,
talking about
she is.
emotions.
Right. Yeah.
Probably talking about, you know, she's talking about ancestors and everything else. So I think when I say, you know, resonance, like with the feeling that's, it's the resonance of my particular person, but also the resonance of all that has like informed me, you know?
Yeah. I facilitate a memoir writing class here in our community.
Oh, wonderful.
And for a lot of different reasons, I organize this thing. And one of the things that I realized actually just within the last few days, that we are not only telling hopefully our current family as well as our descendants, our story, but
Mhm,
we're also giving them our family history.
mhm,
And we're showing them hopefully how we navigated the time in which we live, because we are experiencing a lot of things in the world that we have absolutely no control over. And that's what we're leaving. Yes, we're leaving a personal legacy, but we're also leaving what you're talking about, those traditions, those family things that hold us together. Because it's my grandmother and my mother and my great grandmother that gave those to me or showed them to me. I did that with my kids, and they're passing it along to theirs. That's what this is all about. And so I understand what you're saying. I really do. Thank you for that.
I just wanted to say, Robert, that on the one hand, there's the kind of immediate sign of, oh, these are the people who brought the message to me. And, uh, you know, wow, I just didn't get to go to Rome and now I'm being invited to Rome, you know. Um, so the, and it was also about like, somehow I'd moved from the realm of quantity to the realm of quality because all of a sudden I wasn't even like buying my ticket or, you know, thinking where am I, you know, it's that thing like it's the gift, right? When the gift comes and it's outside that realm. But those were the signs. But the confirmation for me was that I'm so excited to read your book. I mean, I immediately was like, I need to read this book. I'm really engaged and intrigued both the content and then, of course, it's I can see that the book is really the organizing principle for, it's the spine for the conference, it's the
Yes,
structure of
it
the
is.
conference.
Yeah.
So, I certainly, I want to be immersed in it because that's how I'm going to learn the most and participate.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I
Um,
want to tell you that one of the goals of this whole thing is that, and why we're doing research on neuroscientific research on the effects of praying in silence, is that I have seen miracles happen of the divine healer with people that had Parkinson's, bipolar disorder, like my wife, fear of death. And so the comparison of near-death experiences and mystical experiences as a result of practicing this, uh, various diseases, PTSD. So what's interesting is the reason we're doing the research is because there's been a reluctance in the hospitals and the medical community to remingle medicine and religion because they were stripped apart 200 years ago. And that's part of why I've got Koenig in there to talk. And I'm trying to basically do this so that we can convince the medical community that they have to encourage and accept people to take up this tradition, regardless of which faith, because it's all the same, it's union, to take this up as part of God's plan and God's divine healing. And voluntarily, obviously, if they don't believe in God, that's a different thing. But however, I personally believe that God dwells within everyone. Doesn't matter whether they recognize God's there or not. That's why the Buddhists show some healing process from these things. So that's why we're doing the research, and to convince them, even though we here around the table know that it's a benefit, that God benefits us through that. It's not something we're doing or earning. We can't force it. It's a gift. All we can do is open ourselves up to it. So at the very beginning of the conference, I will give a brief description of interfaith centering prayer as to how you deal with your thoughts. But that I don't want that to interfere with each of the traditions build up and ending.
Jeff, did you have any other, I think you term it housekeeping details that you wanted to pass along?
Not really. The only thing I would mention is that, we've been blessed, and I understand we're neighbors of a sort, Seemi, that you're up in the Vancouver area, which is one of
Yes.
my favorite places to go to outside of Puget Sound. But we've been blessed in having Brother Jamal participate in our United in Spirit and guiding us. And this is more for Jan and Bob's sake. It's just so beautiful. And the only thing we come up with is just basically Jamal and the other two presenters, or three, as was the case this last year, come up with a rough theme, and then it's up to them. And they guide us so ably and so well, and so lead us into such deep places. And I know that everybody walks out of there so uplifted. And I know from hearing this discussion and seeing the backgrounds, that's going to be the case. So I'm just looking forward to it and so grateful that you're both participating in this.
I have to honor, I want to honor the Sufism and Sufi tradition, and I wanted to do it physically. And so I had the blessing to be able to travel to Konya, Turkey, and pray over Rumi's grave
Oh,
and practice my form of centering prayer over his grave. And then give a talk at the medical school there at Rumi University. And which sadly has been shut down by the head of Turkey. You know that story. So it's a sad situation. But we find ourselves we just finished yesterday with the Kabbalist Jewish tradition speakers. And one of the things we talked about was brought up by Jan is we ought to do this together between the different traditions and on a Zoom call perhaps.
mhm.
And then I'd like to suggest we go into interfaith centering prayer at that time. One of us lead it. Jamal would be wonderful, whatever. But this world needs this, and it's seeking it. And I can tell that because my book is selling and it isn't Bob. Okay. Suddenly I go back and I read what I wrote and I can't remember writing it. That's scary, but also inspirational to me. So this is what it's about.
One last thing I'd like to leave you, excuse me, thought I'd like to leave you with. We want this conference to be fun, enjoyable. We want the joy that we experience in these Zoom calls that Bob and Jeff and I have been having. They've been joyful experiences, at least for me, they have been. We've learned about people, and yeah, we've gotten the information we need. But I want people to walk out of the last session of that conference being uplifted, feeling, because they felt that joy that we were bringing to what we're doing. That's my goal. I know that's a very intangible thing, and I would never try to define it because it's different for everyone. But I hope we can leave them with that feel, or they take that feeling away from when they leave the conference. That's my goal.
It's these notes that I would love to have this Zoom end on. Unfortunately, I've got one housekeeping issue. Without registrants, we have no conference, okay? So we need to each promote the conference on our respective recurring newsletters, websites, etc. And so I would like to get your opinion as to how we might do that. I know University of British Columbia, possibly, Seemi, I don't know. The Threshold Society of Sufism. Jamal, you both know more than I do as to what your connections are. And it's imperative that you do that fairly quickly. And I sent in those emails graphics showing you both as speakers. So sometimes you have followings to be able to follow you. So could you both address that now just for a moment?
Yeah, let me start by saying, Bobby, absolutely right. I have neglected that. We do have contacts both in our own interfaith community, sanctuary community, and the larger interfaith community. So I think we'll have a good reach. I will get down to that immediately.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, and I've shared it on my personal social media, and I've had, good response and excitement, but I will say a lot of it's been, this is wonderful. Wow, congratulations. Some people have said, oh, how that they would be interested. But I think in terms of putting it out in email newsletters, WhatsApp groups, and that's something that I can do now, sit down and really.
I appreciate that. And whatever organizations that you could do or whatever, that'd be wonderful.
Yeah.
But I think the time is now because November 30th is the end of the early bird registration. So that'll help people sign up.
And
Sister
currently,
Seemi,
how is
registration
currently? Do you have some registrants, or what's it looking like right now?
We have some registrants already, right? And it's going to hit a lot of these websites in the next month, within the next few weeks. That's when I think it's going to explode. And there's always a concern because our partners put up money for the hotels and all that, non-refundable. So we've taken their financial risk in this. However, when I see the response that we're getting in terms of promoting on websites and newsletters that have tens of thousands of distribution, I feel there's going to be no problem.
And I will offer, as I've done for a couple of different situations, if a longer article or book review or whatever would be appropriate, or something you would feel like you could use, just let me know and I'll be glad to put one together. I have obviously the basics that I use, but then I try to make it, I guess personal is the right word to use, targeted to the particular group we're speaking to, try to find a commonality, to speak to that. So if that offer's open, if you feel like there's a way you could use something like that, just let me know. And I'll be glad to.
You send us the links to the promotions, because then Jan will add the name of the organization to the program in Rome. So that's the incentive too.
Any questions?
Links to the organizations that we would be sending the material out to.
Anyone who is willing to promote it on their website or in their
I
newsletters
see,
or
I
whatever.
see. Okay.
Okay. It's
Well,
just kind of a little bit of, if you want to call this free advertisement. We're going to put it in my goal is it's not going to be big and showy. It'll be the name of the organization and whatever their website might be.
well, and not just willing to, but show us a link where they've done it, and that link will trigger Jan to put it in the program.
I see. Okay.
Okay.
Can you perhaps send us, so it's at the top of our email, your most recent, latest, greatest version of what we should be sharing?
Yes, I can do that. I'll do it again. I think I sent it with the Zoom request, but that's
He
okay.
sent you the press release is what he sent you as the press release. And that
Okay.
kind of summarizes
Press
things.
release and the
However, if
graphic.
you're asking for something longer, I do have a couple of longer articles that one I wrote for Contemplative Outreach. Another one we submitted
I
to
think if you
American.
send us everything, then what's nice is that we can use that depending on
Okay.
where we're sending it. I can look at it and judge what should I send to different groups, organizations, individuals.
Okay, that's
You
fine.
know,
And well, again, keep in mind, particularly those two articles that I just mentioned, they are targeted for a particular audience.
mhm.
And so we can finesse that, if necessary. I can change that if needed. Yeah, I'll be glad to send it to you. Both of them.
And then for the conference, is there, do you have an Instagram for the conference?
Not at this point. I believe our webmaster, we discussed that with her. I haven't had time to follow up that she set that up for us because she's the one that handles our Instagram account. We do have an account. I just don't know if anything has gone out yet about the conference.
Did you have some thoughts on that, Seemi?
So my thought is that the way everybody who's under a certain age, and it's not even a very old age, like it's not even a very young age.
It's all over the place. Yeah.
Like people, I'm 59 and my age people too. Like I've just found, well, certainly there's Facebook and people are finding out things on Facebook. That's
Yeah.
how they know something's happening.
Right. I'm
And
78 and
Instagram.
I go to
Yeah.
Instagram and I'm 78.
And
So yeah, I
Instagram,
understand.
I mean, the numbers of things that so much of what I do, I actually know about it because it comes through on Facebook or on Instagram. Of course, I'm in a whole network of people who have a confluence of interests with me, intellectual, spiritual, artistic. So like the curated best of the world in the areas I'm interested in, whether it's articles, whether it's video, film, conferences, Zoom, it's all coming through my Facebook and it's coming through Instagram. So I think and suddenly the reach becomes, and the capacity of people to share, that so I think, yes, we can share in emails to our groups and things, but to be honest, that's not where the real reach is from my small knowledge of media and marketing. And if so sometimes if there's somebody who's engaged in this who's younger and who has some savvy around that, those are I think that, and to have small clips like reels, a snippet of Jamal talking about this, or Jeff, or you, or showing the book, or these I think that's how you can really create some buzz. And it's not hard for the people who know how to do it. I mean, you look at
Thank you
young
for the
people.
encouragement.
Yeah. So I mean,
I'm always open to people that sound like they're offering to volunteer. So this.
Oh, be careful. Be careful.
yeah,
I'm going to
no,
warn you
I
on
don't,
that.
I'm not, I don't have the expertise actually, but
And I know from where I speak because I asked this fatal question. What have you been up to, Bob? Wrote a book. About what? Faith and science. Because of that brief conversation, I'm up to my neck in faith and science and contemplative network and all that kind of thing. So I know how this works. I really do.
On our website, www.contemplative.net, which is for Contemplative Network, we have an Instagram and Facebook link at the top.
Mhm.
They need to be populated. Your advice is solid. Thank you.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I
Thank
think-
you for that reminder. I do appreciate that.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think the last thing I'll say, it's interesting. I would say physics is I'm I'm stronger, and I've probably thought more around biology, ecology, and certainly psychology. But if it's physics, I'm up for the challenge, and I will, I will go there. I would say my natural, like my natural intellectual, like where the science and the Quran, for me personally, there is plenty. It's not that there's not a lot that is physics also, but probably biology and psychology are my stronger areas in terms of where I've already done a lot of thinking research. So, I'm also like, I will take, so I'm just going to put that there, but I will also, I will take on, I will read your chapter deeply and take on physics, and maybe there's some new part of my thinking that needs to be kindled and expanded. So.
Well, one of the things I should point out is on the conference website, there's under discussions are a number of possible discussion items that might come up, and they may not be presented or talked about by the presenters. But Jeff or someone might bring it up, and so those are also covered in the book. So you may want to take a look and certainly supplement it with any reading so that you're kind of prepared with those discussion items in case they come up.
Yeah, no, I think I'll start reading before the holidays. I'm going to get on and order the book, and then.
Okay. Well,
At least
Okay,
9
great.
times.
Thank
At
you.
least 9 times you must read it. Yeah.
Oh, well, no, I'm not suggesting anybody read it 9 times. Believe me, I'm not suggesting that.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm
I
kidding.
honestly, I'm the author, and it makes me sick to think I would read it again. I really.
Well, the other thing too that I neglected to mention in all of that is that Bob rewrote that book completely twice. So there's been a lot of, well, he wrote it originally and then rewrote it 2 more times. There's a lot of thought and love and prayer that went into that book from the author and the editor. And I modestly suggest that's part of the reason why it's making an impact in the world, because it's there, because of that, as much as the content.
It's the spirit.
Yes, it's definitely the spirit working. Yeah.
It's the reason you're here, Jamal's here, Jeff's here, Jan's here, and sometimes I'm here, sometimes I'm there. I don't know.
Yeah, well, sometimes I have to pull him down off the ceiling. It was a joy to meet you, Seemi. I look forward to, I'm a hugger. I look forward to being able to hug you when I see you in Rome. It's this, I don't know. I think the guys with me will agree that these Zoom meetings we're having, to me, are, yeah, I learn a lot, but they're just joyful in and of them. Yesterday, I walked around all day feeling good after the one we had in the morning, because it did change my day, change the trajectory of my day. And this one will too. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, and Jamal, I look forward. We'll read and think, and then we can
Yes.
talk.
Sister
It will
Seemi,
be
after we've
wonderful.
both read the
Yeah.
book, let's connect and make
Yeah.
a wonderful plan.
And by the way, Pete, we encourage you to interact between yourselves, and we don't all have to be together,
Oh, no.
wherever we are. I'm doing a talk right after Finley, and he's gotten excited about it. He wants to have a Zoom every month. And now we're doing the talks to each other to see how they flow together, because that was the issue of trying to get them to segue with questions and answers, which Jeff can talk about, but we'll do.
Well, yeah, also the questions, we're hoping the audience will write down a few questions on 3x5 cards. And Jeff has the delightful task of quickly going through those so that he's prepared at the end of the day, for that general panel discussion, that if it flags a little bit or slows down or whatever, he's got some questions that have come from the audience. So
Yeah,
we're
I
doing
would say, and
everything
we can talk about that when we, reconnect,
Yeah,
winter,
right.
early spring, is just to be prepared for the panel discussion. And judging from all of the conversations we've had, it's not going to be an issue. But
No, it's
in
not.
case it might be helpful to interject a question just to move things along, Jamal and Seemi, both of you, just say, here might be something that would be good to bring up at the panel discussion. And having done what I did for so many years, it's the sort of thing that even that morning or the day before, you can just say, I thought of something and it would be really good to bring up in the panel discussion. And I'll just write that down and have it. So, we can be very loose about that too.
Well,
Yeah,
thank
we're all backing each other up in different ways. This is a group project. And when I say group, I'm also including the speakers, the presenters.
Yeah.
You're part of this group, an important part of this group. So it's a group project.
One quick question. Do we know the seating capacity of the place where we are speaking?
400.
Well, okay.
And we hope there's standing room only.
Yes, yes.
When we selected it, my partner, Hans Cortial, this conference was his idea. I was talking to him about how do I get the book promoted, whatever. So he sets it up for me to give it to the Pope. And then I told him about a conference in Rome that Bishop Barron put on faith and science. And they had to shut down registration at 1,000 registrants.
Wow.
And then he said, well, why don't we do it here? Then, of course, his next question was, well, how many can we get? And my answer was, I have no idea. But having been to a lot of these conferences, I guessed at around 400 to 500. That was my guess. He picked the venue, and it's right next to the hotel we're at.
Wonderful.
You got to see the hotel. I'll send.
Mhm.
I was just about to send the announcement out, so you'll get it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. I think that's it for this time. Thank
you.
you all for your time
Thank
and
you.
have a beautiful day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Blessings to
Bye-bye.
all.
Bye-bye now.